afternoon. It's meteorologist Michael Fecca. Welcome back to the news and weather update we do here every day at 2:30. Of course, we're going to kick off everything with our headlines. We are talking about weather headlines here. It looks like maybe getting a little stuck here on our graphics system, but we are still tracking out severe thunderstorms through the rest of our afternoon here. So we remain on alert for the next several hours here. We already do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that are popping up across areas like Vanderburgh County and Posey County, as well as just to our north. So let me see if I can quickly troubleshoot something here. It actually looks like we're frozen. Let me go right back. 1 second. Okay. Let's see if we fix this. All right, there we go. Now we're back to our normal scheduled programming. Thank you very much. Here we are with our current warning. So right now, all the warnings across the tri-state are all severe thunderstorm warnings, which is good news. However, we are under a tornado watch across the entire tri-state for the next several hours. So in addition to the potential for damaging wind gusts, we're also concerned with hail and the potential for some isolated tornadoes. So here's a current look at our radar. Again, we got some other watches down in Gibson and Pike County, as well as Posey and Vanderburgh County. You may have heard those warnings go off. We had the storm sirens go off here in the Evansville area, but again, that is not for a tornado. It is for a severe thunderstorm warning. But looking at the bigger setup across the U.S., we've got this area of low pressure anchored just to the north of us over northern Illinois and Lake Michigan. And we have this cold front that's swinging in from the west. And what that has already done is kicked up this line of showers and storms out ahead of it. And those are what is going to be heading in our direction here through the next several hours. So there's a look at all of those thunderstorms moving in from the west. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings through Posey and Vanderburgh County. We've also got warnings. Oh, it's really low. Okay, let's pump that back up. Maybe you can hear me now a little bit more. So here's a look at those severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, damaging wind gusts right now are the primary hazards. But you can see we've got a couple of storms and cells popping up along the leading edge of this front. So we've got some downpours and thunderstorms popping up in Warwick County, in several places, again, up and towards White County in Illinois. So even outside of those severe thunderstorm warnings, you definitely need to still be paying attention because these little cells can blow up pretty quickly. So that's what we're watching here for the rest of the afternoon. We're starting to see maybe some of the storms organize a little bit better into a line just off to our west. And when that happens, that's where we're looking at more of a damaging wind threat. Still a little low. Let's go ahead, and that's why, because, okay. All right, here we are. So how about, can we hear me now? All right. Let me check out the comments. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. All right, it looks like people can hear me now, so that is good news. Again, severe thunderstorm warnings all across the tri-state right now. Again, Gibson and Pike County, Posey and Vanderburgh County. Primary hazards there are going to be the potential for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So that is what we're watching here through the rest of this afternoon. And there is that tornado watch across the tri-state. So everyone highlighted here in red, we have that tornado watch in effect until around 4 p.m. So that includes all of the tri-state there. Even though we're mostly just seeing severe thunderstorm warnings right now, we have the potential for some of those spin-ups. So looking at our severe risk for the rest of the day today, again, all hazards are possible. We've got heavy rainfall. We still have that potential for some flash flooding, especially with all the water we've had recently. But our primary hazard is going to be that level 3 out of 4 risk for damaging wind gusts. And then we have that level 2 out of 4 risk for hail and 2 out of 4 risk for tornadoes there across the tri-state. So we need to be prepared for everything headed our way through the rest of this afternoon. Now, as those showers and storms continue to develop downstream and kind of form into a line, they will be marching eastward through the tri-state. So places like Owensboro likely moving into your neck of the woods within the next 2 hours or so, that leading edge of the line. And then we're still going to have some trailing showers and thunderstorms on the backside of this line. So the primary severe weather threat is going to be from now through around 7 p.m. tonight. Then we still have the chance again for maybe a few isolated, maybe another scattered chance for a thunderstorm, primarily over western Kentucky as we get later on into the night. But it does look like hopefully most of the severe weather components will have been raked through already. So those will likely just be ordinary thunderstorms. And then as we get into Thursday, we'll start to have high pressure build back into the tri-state, and that should keep us on the dry side for Thursday, and then continuing as we go through the weekend. We have a pretty nice setup here towards the end of the work week. But looking at several ways to receive warnings here. So we remain on alert. We're tracking out those severe thunderstorms. How do you receive your warnings? Well, we don't want you to rely on storm sirens because they are only designed to be heard outdoors, and you may not be able to hear them from inside. We recommend you have at least 2 ways to receive warnings. You want to turn on the alerts for the 14 First Alert weather app. Hopefully you have that downloaded and you know how to turn that on. You'll get all the warnings relative to your location sent directly to your phone. And if you have a NOAA weather radio, make sure that you have the alarm tone turned on and you have a battery backup as well. So those are all important to make sure you're getting the necessary severe weather information. And before an alert day, well, hopefully you've been paying attention to the forecast up until this point with up-to-date information, and you have ways to receive those warnings, and you know where you're going in the event you are placed under a warning, especially a tornado warning. So you know how to get the latest information. You're here watching us on the 14 First Alert afternoon stream, so you're already off to a great start. Hopefully, if you had any plans early or through this afternoon, you've already made arrangements to adjust them or reschedule them, because it's just not a great idea, especially if they're outdoor plans, to be anywhere outside or away from your known safe spaces. And you also want to remind your family of the safety plan and ensure that your shelter is clean and accessible. Now, if you are placed under a warning, which many of us will be as we go through the rest of this evening, you want to take action immediately. You want to go to your safe space, a room without any windows or exterior walls, and that goes for severe thunderstorm warnings as well. But especially if there's a tornado warning, you want to make sure you're getting on the lowest level, covering your body with any sort of protection, a helmet, a pillow to place over yourself, and you want to get low and cover your head. So those are all very important steps that hopefully we are taking here as we go through the rest of this afternoon. But there's another look at the radar just to kind of do a roundup of all the storms that we're seeing so far. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings in the tri-state currently. We've got one that's exiting Gibson County, pushing into Pike County. It looks like it's kind of riding right up and along I-69 there, and you can see that they actually just trimmed that warning as it's starting to lift further north in that warning box. And then we've also got this other severe thunderstorm warning in areas like Posey and Vanderburgh County that is going to continue to push off to the northeast at around 45 miles per hour. But let me go ahead and just do a couple of quick tracks on these for you guys and give you some arrival times here. We'll start off with this particular storm in Posey County. So the primary hazards are 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-sized hail. So I can actually zoom in a little bit closer for you. We can get some better town names in there, and then I'm going to throw a track on this as it moves off to the northeast. So northeast from the leading edge of that storm, that'll bring it into areas like Lippe at around 241, 244 in the Parker's Settlement, St. Wendell at around 249, 251 in Armstrong, 254 in Darmstadt, and around 256 in McCutcheonsville. And again, this is for that severe thunderstorm warning that's lifting out of Posey County. It looks like it's just exiting Mount Vernon there and is going to be heading off to the north and east towards those various locations. And let me go ahead and pan up to that other severe thunderstorm warning that we have issued across portions of Gibson and Pike County right now. It looks like Oakland City kind of getting hit with the brunt of that storm right now. This storm is also moving off to the northeast at around 40 miles per hour. So putting another track on this one right from the leading edge of that storm, that'll put it in areas like Murin at around 3:41 Eastern Daylight Time, 3:43 in Ayrshire at around 3:43 Eastern Time, 2:45 there in Winslow, that is Central Time, 3:50 in Alford, 3:52 in Algiers, and around 3:55 Otwell, and those are all in Eastern Daylight Time. So that is where this storm is moving. Again, primary hazards are 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and the potential for hail, but we're also keeping an eye out on any storms that look like they start to rotate because we are under that tornado watch for the next several hours. So So here's what you need to know. Severe thunderstorms will continue here from now until around 7 p.m. It looks like the best window. And then again, all hazards are going to be possible: wind, flooding, hail, and tornadoes. But again, damaging wind gusts are going to be the primary threat there. Now here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Again, we'll continue to push off into the end of the work week there. We have temperatures that will be climbing up into the 90s by the time we get into this weekend. In conjunction with that, we're also going to be seeing dew points all the way up into the 70s. So it is going to feel a lot hotter than it actually is once we get through summer. It's kind of the perfect marking point for this pattern change here. So into the 90s through the weekend. Plenty of sunshine, so at least we're going to stay dry, and you can at least enjoy some outdoor time, pool time, especially with all that heat. You want to make sure you're able to cool off. So that is all I've got here for the forecast portion of our afternoon stream, but don't go away. We've got Rob and Jamie here with some more news headlines just after this break.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our 2:30 streaming show. I'm Jamie French.
And I'm Robinson Miles. Of course, we know the biggest story of the day is the weather, but we do have a few other things we're keeping our eye on today that, of course, we're going to take or give you a little bit of a glimpse of before we get to our main shows this evening. So the first one comes to us out of Evansville. The Stockwell Road intersection reopened today after the morning travel rush. Now, traffic is now switched to the new redesigned intersection.
Yeah, that's right. So this is all a part of the Lloyd for You project. It's kind of difficult and interesting if you've never seen this before. So eastbound drivers who are wanting to go north on Stockwell will enter the left turn lanes shortly after crossing Van Avenue. But that's going to happen well before you reach the main intersection. Now, if you are a westbound driver wanting to go south on Stockwell, then you enter the left turning lane after you cross through the intersection. Again, like we said, all a part of that ongoing work that's going to take several years to reconstruct the Lloyd. Officials held a session earlier this month to sort of teach people how this would work. They could lay down a roadmap essentially on the gym floor, and walk through it to understand how these turns work. We know several area law enforcement, sheriff's deputies, and police officers were there this morning, just making sure that everyone knew what was going on and that they could safely get through it.
Now, if it sounds a little bit complicated, believe me, you are not alone in thinking that. That's where they held these events. It seemed weirdly fun. It seemed like a little kindergarten-esque where you walk on the mats on the roads.
Certainly.
It seemed fun. Now, of course, all of these things, they're marked with signs. They have a lot of directions. As Jamie mentioned, there was law enforcement out there to try and keep things going, help people out, know what to do. But if you're at all unsure, just make sure to slow down, follow all the guidance that is there on the scene. And if you have even more questions, then do not worry. Jordan Yaney is taking a much closer look at this entire process. Is going to bring us his full report just a little bit later tonight.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so I know we are in the middle of summer now, but we always have to look ahead to the school year because a lot of things change over the summer months. Something that we are following today is a new Kentucky state law. It's about to go in effect on the 27th of June, but it regards electronic teacher-student communication outside of school hours.
Now, the idea behind this was to create a safe and secure method for communication between staff and students, with the key being that it can always be monitored. So we checked in with Owensboro Public Schools today to learn a little bit about how they're implementing this for the upcoming school year. Now, they're going to be using two different traceable communication systems, and these are Talking Points and Google Workspace. Now, one-way communications like announcements are still going to be made through the OPS app or the district social media pages. Now, the key here is that staff will not be able to respond to Facebook Messenger messages. Now, Facebook comments can be replied to since, of course, that's more of a public forum.
Yeah, that's right. So to be able to use the Talking Points and Google Classroom apps to communicate with the teacher, students do have to get parental consent first to be able to utilize those apps. But this is a way they can talk to those students about, their homework assignment or a grade or even school clubs. It can be used for volunteers and staff members as well for sporting events and clubs and different activities outside of the classroom setting as well. So just something, to take an extra step there to keep those kids safe outside of the school. Of course, this is happening all across Kentucky, and this is just one way Owensboro is kind of taking the lead on implementing that. But again, it takes effect on June 27th, so here in just a few days now. But of course, before the school year starts, that'll be something brand new in Owensboro.
True, and it seems cool that they're taking those extra steps to try and be proactive. Of course, when I went through high school, cell phones, they existed, but maybe the relationships we had to them wasn't exactly the same, so now they're becoming a little bit more ubiquitous. I think it's kind of cool that they're taking this opportunity to make sure that everything's on the up and up.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we'll continue to follow that even as we lead up into the school year to see how this pans out.
All right, so that is going to be it for us for your little update this afternoon. Of course, we will have a lot more information, not only on the weather, but all kinds of different stories on our main evening shows, or of course, later tonight on 14 News at 10.
And of course, stay weather aware today. We will be on and off throughout the day, keeping you updated on the latest forecast. Our weather team is got their work cut out for them for today. So everyone be safe. Thanks for watching this afternoon. Have a great day.